can you give us some clarity about how this conversation with Rory took place and why it's led to this point? Because the timing is a bit bizarre in season to have this announcement.
Yeah, Rory came to us and explained he wanted to explore his free agency opportunities. In talking through that, Rory expressed that he'd like to be able to talk to his teammates, which he did yesterday. He did that out of respect for the footy club. He's obviously been a really good servant of the club. He's had 8 years here. He's played 101 games, and he wanted to let us know that's what he was going to be doing. We're encouraging open and honest conversations within the footy department. He had that with us, and we respect that, and that's why we've arrived where we are today.
What's prompted that? Was he told he's not going to be playing further this year? Was there, what's prompted that decision from his end?
There's a few things there, really. Like, he must have a degree of confidence in the free agency market that he's going to get the type of deal that he's after. He hasn't been in our side since round 9. And there's no second-tier footy to play at the moment. And when you think about the impact of COVID as well, and he's living inside of the football bubble or under the COVID protocols, we now get an opportunity where we can release him from his obligations, and he can move on and explore his opportunities.
So you prefer to keep him out?
Keep him at the club?
Do you prefer to keep him?
Yeah, look, we would have been, hopefully in a position where we were able to entertain him being on our list next year, and certainly we had discussions with his management earlier in the year. But at the end of the day, what Rory was seeking and what the club was able to offer him were too far apart, and he's decided to explore his opportunities elsewhere.
So he's completely instigated this?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. He's a much-loved member of our footy club. Great servant. He's a great character. His delivery of his message yesterday was heartfelt. Disappointing for us that he's moving on, but we also understand that he's got some confidence, and he thinks that in the free agency market he'll get that opportunity, and that's what it's there for players to explore.
What did he say to teammates yesterday? What about his speech was heartfelt?
I think any time you spend 8 years inside of a footy club, you build some really strong relationships, and when that comes to an end, it's hard for anyone when they leave any organisation after that sort of service, and he just thanked them all for the support that they've given him, and I won't go into too much detail. It's Rory's story to tell, but you could tell that the place has meant a lot to him.
Do you think other players will now do the same before the season ends?
I think it's a bit like there's been a couple of players over in Fremantle that have done similar things. I think COVID has had an impact on that, and the fact that there is no second-tier football to be played, and that we're adhering to protocols that you wouldn't need to adhere to if you weren't still tied to obligations. So maybe not, but certainly in this instance, we welcomed his honesty, and we appreciate him coming forward.
Would you be open to players doing that though? If a hypothetical player said, I want to get out of this bubble, I want to live my own life and worry about my next deal, are you open to letting players do that?
Well, I guess we are, because it's just happened. We respect him coming forward, given everything really. We've got at the point in the season that we're in, the fact that he hasn't been in the team since round 9. We work with Rory. We anticipated he might feel a little bit uncomfortable coming in today, and when you advise your colleagues that you're leaving an organisation, there is that uncomfortability about turning up at your workplace, whether you're a professional sports person or in any other industry, and we anticipated that might have been the case. We had a chat this morning. He felt it strange sitting in a team meeting knowing that he wasn't going to be here next year, and we'll work with him. He's still got to go through his exits and do his medicals and different things, but we'll work through that.
On that though, does he have any, does he continue any training whatsoever? Does he do any work at the club, or is he...
No, he won't be training from here on in. We actually were very open-minded about that yesterday, and as I said, chatting to Rory last night, he came into the club this morning, sat in a team meeting and said, look, it doesn't make a lot of sense to be around at the moment. My future is going to be elsewhere, so we had a chat about that, and now we'll sort of move more to what an exit looks like, and having some exit interviews with coaches and then some medicals, etc.
So he doesn't adhere to the COVID bubble kind of rules rules?
No, he won't need to.
Yeah.
He will need to until such time as he exits the club. And we've got a few things that need to happen, like his medicals and what have you, which he'll need to be in the club for.
When will those be done?
Does he compensation play a role in the AFLs? From your point of view?
No. Look, Rory, he must have a confidence that he's going to get a deal that's better for him than what we were able to offer him at this point in time. So, not from our point of view, it didn't play into it. Obviously, we will be compensated, when and if he gets that deal.
When will he be out of the bubble?
We actually haven't mapped it out yet, but I expect it'll be some stage next week. He'll only have the medical exits to go through, and then some exits with coaches and with staff. But at some stage next week.
Will the club have a similar conversation with Bryce Gibbs coming up and where his future lies?
Bryce is contracted for next year. Rory was out of contract and a restricted free agent, so a very different situation. Totally different situations.
Do you think Bryce will be here next year?
We'll sit down at the end of the year and talk to Bryce about how he's feeling about his football, and we haven't had those conversations, so we'll wait till the end of the season for that.
Where does Brad Crouch factor in, just as far as he's obviously kind of had an injury, there's only a few games to go, no finals able to be played for you guys this year. Do you put a line through him at any point through this year as far as returning to play?
No, he's on track to get back out, and hopefully as early as against the Hawks on Tuesday. So that's the plan: get him back playing as early as possible.
Is pick 2, if that comes to that, more valuable to the club than Brad?
Yeah, we don't. Look, that's out of our control. Yeah, we don't know. We haven't dealt with that. We haven't had a conversation about whether if we were presented with that scenario, which way do we go? Because at the end of the day, the marketplace determines that, not anything that we do. And if there's a club there that's offering him a deal that we can't offer, and that's, let's not forget that in any of these situations, it's about us offering something and a rival club offering something that might be more enticing. That's out of our control.
So what are the conversations centred around Brad? I mean, you either get an early pick tied to your first pick, or you get in the first rounder. Is there a point where you choose not to match?
Yeah, we'll wait and see what the marketplace dictates as far as that's concerned, and our ongoing discussions with Brad and his management.
Is there a tipping point with Rory as far as his exit? Was there a moment, I guess, he intimated where he kind of knew his future here was finished?
Not that I know of. I haven't had specifically that conversation with him. Look, I think it's great that Rory came forward. Like, the alternative here is that Rory holds that to himself and he goes through the next month knowing that he's going to be exploring his options, and he might have some confidence around that. So he came forward. He was trusting enough in the club that it'd be handled in the right way. We think that it has been handled in the right way with him, and we've got a great deal of respect for what he's given to the club, and we wish Rory and his partner Georgia and the family have been very well known and liked by the group, all the best.
He was getting about 20 touches a game a few years ago, first choice player in the 22, and this season he's taken off. Can you put your finger on why that might be?
He did get a shoulder injury in his 100th game up on the Gold Coast, so it took him a number of weeks to come back from that. He had the one game back in. Form wasn't where the coaches wanted to be. He found himself out of the team. He's been out of the team since round 9, but he hasn't really had the opportunity. Like, that's the battle in this year, that in a typical season he would have been playing some sample footy and earning his spot back into the side, but that's been really difficult this year.
Reshaping your footy department, Adam, have you had any conversations with assistant coaches about their futures?
We've had discussions with all of our staff across the footy department over the last week. So it's obviously a really tough time that the industry is going through, and a tough time for all of our staff. So yeah, we've been discussing through the last week what the future might look like, and in many respects there's not the certainty that we can give, and we'd love to be able to give our staff at the moment. we feel for the situation that they're in and the anxiety it all creates.
So did Ben Hart and Mick Godden know if they'll be here next year?
There's a lot of our footy department who are uncertain about next year, and we don't have that certainty ourselves. So
when do you hope you might get?
Look, what we don't want to do is delay our decision making. So we're certainly not stalling that process. We're working through it as quickly as we can, and our staff have been wonderful in their understanding.
What are you waiting for there in terms of clarity?
Well, we still actually don't fully understand the implications of the soft cap, and there's some elements of that that end up being significant because when we're trying to understand second tier costs and different things and how it implicates on the soft cap, we can't even confirm the structure at this stage. But we're not hiding away from, and we've been open about we need to get better as well. So that's not specific to any area in the footy department, that's broadly, and we're exploring opportunities to get better.
And just to clarify, sorry, do you expect any other players to follow this kind of direction that Rory's going with?
There's no expectation, no.
You don't anticipate other players kind of following suit at all?
What we hope of our players is they know that they can be open and transparent with us and it'll be handled in the right way, or hopefully it's reflected on that it's been handled in the right way, and I think Rory would say it has been. If our players want to be transparent, we'll welcome those discussions.
How long did it take from him coming to you and now to
I think it's been a week or so, maybe, that it's been known that he was going to explore his opportunities, and there's a period of time you have to work through with the player and the agent and how that's going to be managed and how the player wants to convey the message to his teammates, and so it takes a few days to work through that. And yesterday the intention was that he was going to continue to be around the club, but as we anticipated, it becomes pretty uncomfortable quickly when you know you're going to be part of the future. So,
do you know what he's going to do in his immediate future? Is he going to stay in Adelaide? He's from Victoria.
I think he'll stay here, just given everything that's happening in Victoria. I know he'd love to get back to his family and what have you, but I think he'll enjoy being not subject to the COVID protocols, and I think probably the first thing he'll do is go out for dinner with his partner.
What were some of the points that maybe in the negotiations you couldn't come to agreement on?
Look, I guess until a deal that is announced for Rory, and he's obviously got some confidence levels there, I can only speculate that it's around the length of the deal and obviously the financial terms. So, yeah.
Did you offer him a deal?
Yeah, we've been in discussions with his management, but yeah, as with every negotiation, sometimes you just can't meet the expectations.
Yeah, that's what he had an offer on the table.
Yeah.